A text box is just that. It's a box that contains text. Doesn't sound too appeasing, does it? Well, not when I say it like that, but they're great attention grabbers. For example, the title of my document may not interest you, but if I take some key words in here or a key phrase, or let's do like 2 words here, keep it short, corrupt government, copy that and put it into a text box and put that box somewhere close to the top. Well, the box is different from the rest of the document, so that will lure your eyes to it. And because the text in it's so short, you couldn't probably help yourself just to take a quick glance because it wouldn't be much work. And especially if I make the size of the font for the text within the text box a little bit larger. And you're probably wondering like, ooh, what's this about? Which government's corrupt? Is it ours? Well, let's read to find out. Let me go ahead and click off so I can show you how you can insert a text box. Come up here, click on Insert, go to the text group, and there you go, text box. You can see when I hover over it, in the pop-up it says, got must-see content? Oh, they got that from Got Milk. Well, got my attention. Put it in a text box. Okay. Click on the text box button, and you got 2 different types. You can use a built-in, where it has text that's pre-formatted, and also the box, or you can come down below and draw your own box. We'll do both. First off, let's do a pre-formatted one like this one. You can see when I hover over it, it's Austin quote, and it says it's a pull quote. What are pull quotes? Well, when you want to take a quote from your document and put it in a text box, you're pulling it from the document into your box. So it's a pull quote. So it's things that you want to be able to place emphasis. Maybe for this section, this is about how it all started. Like for maybe this section, this is about corruption. And then maybe this section, another pull quote that says, this is how it all started. So you got kind of little key text boxes or quotes that lets the reader know where they're at within the document. So let's go ahead and do one here. Austin quote, click on it, and there you go. Grab your reader's attention with a great quote from the document, or use this space to emphasize a key point. To place this text box anywhere on the page, just drag it. In any case, with it highlighted, let's just start typing over it with our own text, or you can copy and paste over it, either way. Win a free lunch with Glenn Beck. Ooh, I like free lunches. In any case, visit our website for details. You can convert that into a hyperlink, which we talk about in another training video, or just type in the URL. In any case, it's short, it's to the point. It's something that's different when you click outside of it, that, in fact, it really distracts from the heading here. Maybe I need to use, well, another pull quote box or draw my own and not have it so popish that, well, it detracts. In any case, it does pull out, so it's got my attention. And the text is short, so I don't have to do much work. And if I like what I see, okay, I'll read more about the article, or I'll visit the website, or who's this Glenn Beck? You see? Okay, go ahead and click inside it. And you can make any changes or formatting changes to the text box as you do with the text on the outside of the box in the document. So if I go ahead and click and drag like that, come up here in the mini formatting toolbar and decrease the font size, hit enter. And I don't like align left. How about if we come up here and go to align center? Now it did it for both lines. Why? Because when you come up here, turn on the codes, both lines are in the same paragraph. And it's paragraph alignment, so it aligns the entire paragraph. Let's go ahead and turn off the codes. And you got your resizing handles that we talked about in an earlier training video on modifying pictures or images. And it applies to shapes, objects, and also text boxes. So you want to watch that training video. That you can go ahead and click and drag one of the resizing handles to make it larger, more vertically or horizontally. Let me go ahead and hit undo. Okay, well, it jumped. Well, if it does that to you, I'm going to have to come over and hover over the border of it until you can see a 4-way arrow. You can click and drag it. Oh, there we go, right to the center, and it snaps right there. And we got our layout options. Go ahead and click on it. And the default here for this one is top and bottom, so you can see text lines above it and below it, not around it like something Squaresville, man. Let's go ahead and square it. Cool. And click off of it, and that's one option. Another is to come back up here, insert, text group, text box. You got to draw it yourself. Oh joy. Go ahead and click on it, and you get a black cross. You can just go ahead and click and drag a box. Well, it doesn't matter too much about the size when you let go of the mouse, because you got resizing handles, and you can type in whatever you want, and you can do the formatting in the drawn text box. well, we did in the pull quote or the built-in text box. Hold down the Shift key, hit the Home key on the keyboard. It selects everything from the end of the line to the beginning. And then I can go ahead and right-click on it and come up here, change the font, Arial, hit Enter. Okay, well, you get the idea. Let's go ahead and hit Enter, and let's insert a picture, because you can do that in text boxes. Come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the Illustrations group. Let's do an online picture. And let's do ghost. Why? Let's say the ghost of past founding fathers are come to haunt us to warn us that we better not lose our freedoms, or boo. Let's go for something happy because our founders are cheering for us. So let's go ahead and do a happy ghost. Check him, click on Insert, and well, if he gets cut off, you can do one of a couple of things. You can see the resizing handles for the ghost. Hover over the bottom right hand corner, because when we click and drag it, it'll keep it proportional, as we talked about in an earlier training video. So when you see arrows pointing in opposite directions, click and drag to push it in. You can do it that way, or let me hit undo. You can go ahead and click inside the text box and resize the text box instead. Bottom right hand corner resizing handle, click and drag, and there you go. And what you can do with your text boxes, like if it's something that you want to be able to have an image in it, but the image is going to be blended in with the text. In other words, you don't want a white background for your text box. Well, if the text box selected, you can come up here, click on the Related Contextual Format tab, and then go to the Shape Styles group, click on Shape Fill, and say No Fill. And you can see a preview of it there. You see how you can see the text now comes through because, well, there's no fill. Well, except for the ghost. The ghost is taking up some fill space, and as we learned in earlier training videos, you can also make the ghost, at least the whiteness around them, the background, disappear. So there's a lot you can do here, and if you want to fill color for that, well, that's okie dokie. Or we can go ahead and do some shape styles. Maybe this one right here, Subtle Effect Purple Accent 4, because purple is kind of a spooky thing. And you can also do a shape outline, click on the drop down arrow, maybe red, and when you select red, if it's not thick enough, you can give it some weight. Okay, click off, shape effects. I'm going through this pretty quickly so you can see the different formatting options, but it's pretty simplistic. Just know that they're there. The fill, the outline, the effects, like maybe give them a warm, glowing, warm glow, something really red. Click on it, and oh, not too bad. And you can select the image and work with the image, again, as we talked about in an earlier training video. That you can come up here, click on the Related Contextual Format tab, come over, click on Remove Background, and it removed everything. So we better mark the areas to keep. In any case, you know how to do that. Just click on Mark Areas to Keep, and then click and drag. Oh, we kept his mouth. Let's move over here, and whoa, we got a lot of work to do. It's not keeping everything that I'd like. In any case, let's go ahead and discard all changes and keep it as is. I wanted to show you that there are options to clean this up so it doesn't look as, well, as bad as it is. But that's what the training videos are for. We learn one piece at a time, that when you put it all together, you're going to have something just beautiful. So when you get your beautiful pull quote box, let's go ahead and click off. And you're like, man, I like that. I'd like to keep that. So it's available in every new document. Go ahead and click on the border to select the entire text box. Then come up here, click on the Insert tab. I know you're thinking, what? Insert? Well, if we go back to the text group and click on Text Box, you can go ahead and save your selection to the text box gallery. So what I have selected, click on it, and the name of it is whatever. And then the gallery's text boxes, meaning that when I come over here and click on the text box in a new document, remember built-in quotes that we had, like the Austin here? Well, it'll be in that text box's gallery as opposed to something else, but let's keep it simple. And then the categories built in, if you want to go ahead and create a new category, it's not actually a built-in text box, but you could leave it as such, because built-in is what we inserted over here. Let's just go with general. And then as far as the description, go ahead and type one in. We'll say, this is the ghost of the founders past, and we say unto you, hang on to your freedoms, and not say whatever. So you can go ahead and save this as a building block, and we got a whole separate training video on building blocks, so we're just keeping it simple here. And then the options, insert content only, as opposed to insert content in its own paragraph. or in its own page. So you can have it on a separate page. Let's just keep contents only. And then go ahead and click Okie dokie. That's it. So if I come up here and click on the File tab, go down to New, Blank Document, and I'm ready to insert that cool pull quote. Come up here, click on Insert, go to the text group, text box. Now remember, it should be somewhere in the gallery here. We just have to click to scroll down to find it at the very bottom, I wager, in the general part, because it's not a built-in. So otherwise, if we said built-in, it would have been in with the built-ins up above. But it's right there. Cool. You can see when you hover over it that the pop-up comes up about what this is about. And we can right-click on it to edit the properties, meaning if we want to change it and say, okay, it's not about whatever, and we want it in a different gallery, not the description I want, you can make changes there. But after you insert it, let's go ahead and do it again. Click and drag, and then click on it to insert it. There you go, puts it right there. That if you make some changes and you're like, okay, I just want the ghost here, and then maybe let's do the whatever down below. In any case, you made some changes, you like it, go ahead and click on the border of the box, and then go back up to Insert, to Text Box, to save your selection, and then type in what, and then, fill in the rest. Click Okie dokie. And it says, do you want to redefine the building block entry? In other words, update it, overwrite it. So that's how you can go ahead and override it. We'll say no, but I wanted to show you you can do it that way. Let's go ahead and click off of it. Click on text box again, click and drag to scroll down, and then right click on it. And then if you're done with it and you want to delete it, that's the last thing we want to do here. Click on Organize and Delete. And it opens up the Building Blocks Organizer, and it's got it selected by default, whatever. And you can see an image of it, preview, and the description. And if you want to go ahead and edit it, brings up the same window. You can go make your changes to it, click cancel, or delete it. Are you sure? Yes, it's gone, so it's no longer available in any new documents that I create. Close out, not save it. Oh yeah, if you're like, hey, wait a second. When I inserted this into the other document, it was orange, where here it's red. Remember, in an earlier training video, we talked about on the Design tab, let me click up here, the themes. So this document has one theme as opposed to all new documents I create, which has another theme. So when I click on this and I hover over it, you can see how it updates the text box. Well, there's organic and orange. In any case, go ahead and watch my training video on themes if you don't know anything about themes. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos. Word has some shapes you can insert into your document by coming up here, clicking on the Insert tab in the Illustrations group. There you go, Shapes. Click on it, and let's do something simple like a line. Click on the line, move your mouse back over the document, and you get a black cross. That means it's in drawing mode. Just go ahead and click and drag to draw a line. Let go, and there you go. With it selected, you can see you get the related Contextual Format tab, all the different features that you can use to help you work with your shape, the different colors and effects. In any case, with it selected, if I'm like, I don't like the size of it, I want to make it shorter or longer, well, let's say I click off of it and I'm like, oops, let me go ahead and make it shorter, then just hover over it until you can see a four-way arrow. Click on it to select it. Not only to select it, but also with the four-way arrow, it means you can move it in 4 different directions. When you click on it, you can move it up, down, left, or right. There you go. So, with it selected, you get the resizing handles, these circles. Hover over, like the bottom right-hand corner, until you can see arrows pointing in opposite directions. Then click and drag to move it in, swing it around, change the slope, and let go. Or, if you want to keep the slope the same, like I'm guessing this is maybe 25 degrees, go ahead and hold down the Shift key, then click on the resizing handle, and if you go down or up, notice how it doesn't change the slope. so the line doesn't swing with the mouse, but it keeps it at the same slope, so it just goes in or out. Go ahead and let go of the mouse, then the Shift key. And of course, you've got your shape styles. So if you want to change the color, click on Shape Outline, choose a fancy color, and then click on it again. If you want to change the weight, like make it thicker, 6 point is the max. So if you want to go more than 6 point, click on More Lines. Opens up the task pane, and then go ahead in the dial box. You can go ahead and spin up or spin down, and you can type it in like 10 points or, well, make it super thick. Well, there you go, 1,584 points. That's a lot of points. You can also change the color here. You can say that you want something gradient or even no line. We'll keep it as is and close out. Underneath that, you got shape effects, shadows, glows. And we'll do a glow, maybe something like 5-point gray accent color 3. Click on that. Nice little glow there. You also have shape styles. You can hover over that to get a preview of it. Subtle line accent 2, select that. In any case, there you go. That's the line. If you want to go ahead and draw additional shapes, you don't have to come over here and click on the Insert tab if you already have a shape selected, because you get the related Contextual Format tab, because on that tab, you also have Insert Shapes. Just click on that. Now, of all the shapes, I want to focus on the circle and the square. But guess what? There is no circle or square. What's that? Well, yeah, you only have something that's close to it, like for the square, the rectangle, and for the circle, the oval. Let's take them one at a time. First off, if we want to draw a square, select the rectangle, click on that, and then you get the black cross. Go ahead and click and drag, and if you're really good, you can kind of gauge how that looks. There's your square. Of course, if you go too far to the right, you get a horizontal rectangle as opposed to a vertical. But if you really want a square and you don't want to take a guess at it, hold down the Shift key and it pops it open. Let's go ahead and let go of the mouse, then let go of the Shift key. And that's your square. Same thing when it comes to drawing a circle. Well, with the shape selected, I can come back up here, click on Shapes again. So to draw a circle, we have to select the oval. Click on Oval. You get the black cross, then go ahead and click and drag. And if you go too far down, you get an oval vertically or horizontally. You can try to eyeball it or just hold down the Shift key to pop it open. There you go. Let go. Beautiful. Now let's go ahead and give it some color for these things. They're looking kind of bland. With the circle selected, let's click on More. Yeah, okay, orange, that's fine. Select that. Let's go ahead and select the square. Click on More. And maybe something subtle effect, blue accent 5. Let's go ahead and select the circle. And then with my 4-way arrow, click and drag it, move it over into the center, about thus, let go. Now when it comes to resizing, we talked about it. Of course, you also have your rotation handle and also how you can flip your objects. We talked all about that in an earlier training video on modifying your pictures or images. And that applies the same when it comes to shapes, text boxes, objects. So you want to watch that training video. But here, with shapes, you can add text to it. You can do it one of two ways. You can either right-click on it and come up and say you want to add text, or with the shape selected, just start typing, and it will add your text. Fabulous. And you can also format the text, select it. Mini formatting toolbar, change the couleur of it, maybe make it something purple. That might be okie dokie. Now, with text on the inside of the shape, that's one thing. If you have text on the outside of the shape, as you recall in earlier training videos, when it comes to your images or objects or text boxes, pull quotes, you get your layout options you can click on. So if there's text within your document, you can see that the shape when it comes to text is going to be in front of the text. So the shape when it's been drawn, at least with this circle, is going to sit on top of the text. If you want it to be square with the text, so the text wraps around that shape, as you can see there, then go ahead and select it. And we covered that in an earlier training video, but there's a refresher and it's available for your shapes. Let's go ahead and click off. Now notice the shapes are stacked. You've got the circle, then the square, then the line. Now that's called layering, meaning that you've got one layer on top of another, and you've got a total of 3 shapes, so 3 layers. And which shape is the first layer? Well, the one on top, followed by second, then the third. How does Word identify which shape is going to be the first layer? The one that's most recently drawn. So since the first drawn was the line, after I draw the square, that becomes the second, square becomes the first, and then when I draw the circle, that becomes the first, that becomes the second, the square, and then the line is the third. So if you want to go ahead and reorder that, so let's say that the line, when I click on it and drag it, is, let's say, on the second layer between the circle and the square. You can see it's selected. How do I bring it up? Well, you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can, with it selected, come up here on the Related Contextual Format tab and click on the Forward option. And you can see when you hover over it, brings the selected object forward one level or one layer. So it's hidden behind fewer objects. Click on the drop-down arrow, or you can bring it to the front. And you can see when you hover over it, brings the selected object in front of all other objects. So if you have 20 objects, when you select this, it brings it right to the front. It becomes the first layer. Or just bring in front of text. So as opposed to what? Let's go ahead and click on the layout option. It's in front of the text. Well, that's where it's at. Bring in front of the text. It's already selected. So let's go ahead and bring it forward one. And now you can see it's layer number 2. It's behind the circle, yet in front of the square. So let's go ahead and say that we want to send it back. Well, instead of bringing it forward, there you go. You can send it back. And so what's the difference between backward and clicking on the drop-down arrow and send to back? Well, send to back, as it says in the pop-up, sends it behind all other objects, so it's the very last layer. Or you can do it one level or one layer at a time. So if I send it backward, now it's behind the square. And so I can go ahead and say, instead of bringing it forward, just bring it right to the front, and now it's on top of the other 2 layers. What if I go ahead and I select the circle here? And another way of doing this is right-clicking on it, because in the shortcut menu, you get your send to back and bring to front. You can do it there. So let's go ahead and send it to the back, all the way to the back. And I'm like, oh, all I can see is the selection of it. If I click off, well, how do I bring it to the front? Because I want to keep everything there. I just don't want to have to click and drag and move it and then, select that and say, okay, bring it to the front, then click and drag and move that back, because as far as my positioning goes, I want it perfect. I don't want to be off by just a little bit. I mean, you could go ahead and get your positioning coordinates down by, well, with the selected object, come up here on the Format tab, click on Position, and go to More Layer Options. And then you get your positioning, absolute position 1.55 inches to the right of this column, and absolute position 0.62 below the paragraph. I mean, you can do that. Or, without moving it, to be able to pull the circle to a layer that's in front of the square, there's a couple things you can do. You can hit the Tab key, and as you hit it, it will go through each shape, well, starting with the first one that you have selected, to the next shape. So Tab, Tab, Tab. And if you've got a lot of shapes and you hit Tab and you're like, oops, I went too far, now I have to keep tabbing all the way through? No. Just hold down the Shift key and hit Tab, and it goes backwards. So Shift Tab to go back, Tab to go forwards. So let's do Shift Tab until I can see the outline of the circle, well, which is a square, but remember it's a circle inside of the selection of the square, the resizing handles for that circle. And once you have it, and then you can come up here on the Format tab and say bring forward, and there you go. Now you can do it that way, or let's go ahead and hit undo. You can come up here on the Format tab to the Arrange group and bring open the selection pane. And it says it'll see a list of all your objects. Click on it, and there's all the objects. There's the oval, there's the rectangle, there's the straight connector, or the line. And in fact, if you want to go ahead and hide one so you can work with the one behind it, like the rectangle, just go ahead and click on that all-seeing eye. So you poke it in the eye and it has to close, and then you can go ahead and work with it and change the color and go, oh, you know what, I think we ought to do something. Oh, yellow is nice. There you go. Okay, we're done with you. Let's go ahead and poke you in the eye again to open it back up so we can see the rectangle. Now, in addition to that, you can also change the layer here by using your up or down arrows. So if you want the oval, well, we drew a circle, by default it's called the oval. You want that to be in front of the rectangle. With it selected, go ahead and hit the up arrow, and there you go. That way, I think it's a lot easier than using the Tab key to tab through all that, but nonetheless, there's a couple ways to go about doing this. You may find one for your situation works a lot easier than the other. And then, of course, don't forget you can hide all, work with your text, whatever you need to do, and then click Show All. Now that we know how to create basic shapes, as we learned in the previous training video, let's kick it up a notch. For example, I want to create a target, a bullseye, something to shoot at for target practice. So we'll start off with the board, and then we'll create circles, each one smaller than the other, until you get to the center of it, the bullseye. Are you ready? Wondrous! Let's go ahead and come up here and click on Insert, go to the Illustrations group, click on Shapes, and we want our board, so select the rectangle, click on it, black cross, click and drag. Hold down the Shift key to pop it open to the square. Let go of the mouse and then the Shift key. Now the color is not the color I want for the board. So with it selected, I can come up here to its related contextual format tab, go to the Shape Styles group, and click on Shape Fill. And I don't want a color, I want some texture. Let's see, what do we got down here? Something quirky? No. Okay, oak. That sounds good. Select that. And now to go ahead and create our circles one after another until we get to the center. With our shape selected, up here on the Format tab in the Insert Shapes group, click on Shapes so we can add more. Want to add circles, we have to do it through the oval. Click on Oval, and then I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner, just right on that resizing handle. Click and drag, and then to pop it open to a circle, hold down the Shift key. There we go. Let go of the mouse, let go of the Shift key. Let's do it a couple more times. Shapes, circle, and click and drag, Shift key, and let's do it again. Okay, one more time. And, well, that's pretty good. You get the idea. In any case, maybe for the center, we want a star, so you really know that you're on target when you hit the center, not just a simple circle. So let's go ahead and choose Shapes. Ooh, I like that star, 5 pointy. Let's go ahead and click on it, and then click and drag a star. Hold down the Shift key to have it proportionally correct. Let go of the mouse, let go of the Shift key, and oh, that's nice. Now I want all these shapes centered on the board. I can go ahead and do it manually by clicking and dragging the shapes around, but you know what? There's an easier way. I can let Word do it for me, and it's done by selecting all the shapes. So the star is selected. To select the other shapes, hold down the Shift key and click, 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 click. Now that I have all of them selected, come up here on the Format tab to the Arrange group, and then click on the Align drop-down arrow. And how we want to align this is both vertically and horizontally, or we can align to the center and then align to the middle. Let's do center first. It doesn't matter. We're going to do both. So when we do it to the center, they're all in the center. Now we have to align it down below in the middle. So we'll click on Align, down to Align Middle. Click off, and hey, looked like a pro did it. Now let's go ahead and add some color to our star. Shape Fill, we'll do yellow. And then colors for our circles, I'm going to go ahead and select the second to the inner circle, and then hold down the Shift key and select the outer, and then come up here and click on Shape Fill, and instead of doing a color, well, that looks fancy. Let's go ahead and go down to Gradient. What's a gradient? It's a transition between two or more colors, and so you can see where you can go from, well, white to blue at different angles, or a darker variation of it. Let's do something more. Opens up the task pane, and we'll select Gradient Fill, and there we go. Ooh, that looks kind of fancy. I've already been in here messing around a bit. In any case, with Gradient Fill, you have preset gradients, so you can go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow and choose one of those if you'd like, and maybe orange. And then below that, the type that you like, either linear or you can have it radial. When it transitions from one color to the next, it can go from the center out, and you'll have the direction to choose, and well, just below that. In any case, I'll keep it linear. And the two colors that we're looking at, you can see down below, goes from white all the way over to, that's a peach. And the transition is delayed. It doesn't come as soon unless I click on this stop and drag it in. So the transition's tighter when it goes from white to the first stop, that peachy color. Let's come back up here and choose our direction. And you can see it goes from white, a linear diagonal from top left to bottom right, or you can just go linear down, which it doesn't go from the top left, but from top to bottom. Or you can select linear diagonals, so it goes from the bottom left-hand corner and transitions up, but you can't see it transition really because it cuts it off so soon or so early at that first stop. So with that stop selected, I'll go ahead and come over here and delete it. Now I just have 3 stops, and I can click and drag that in the center and say, okay, when you transition from white to peach, do I really need to have that stop there? If it's just 2 colors, no, you can go ahead and remove that, and then click and drag that guy in so it doesn't transition as late. In any case, let's go ahead and go back out and add a stop. And with that one selected, you can go from, well, instead of from, well, it looks like white to white. Let's go ahead and add a color. Click on the bucket here with that stop selected. And let's do red. Well, that's okie dokie. So white to red, from red to that peach color. And so you can go ahead and tweak this quite a bit. And then the positions at 50%, you can go ahead and do it numerically, type it in, or just hit the radio dial options, moving the stop around, that is. Or click and drag it back out. And then transparency, click and drag the slider, and you can take a look at it. It gives us a preview. Well, it actually applies it, but you can see it in the preview. So if you don't like it, then just, click and drag it back. Then the brightness, something a lot brighter. Oh, that's too bright. Let's go. Oh, that's fancy. I like that. -18 brightness, and scroll down to see additional options. How about if we go ahead and select the first color instead of it being white? We click on the bucket and we choose black. Well, that's not too shabby. In any case, your flavor, go ahead and pick what works best for you. Let me go ahead and close out of here, click off, and now something a little bit more. Let's come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the Illustrations group, click on Shapes. Of course, if I had the shape selected, I could have inserted the shape from that Related Contextual tab. But in any case, we're here. Why not go ahead and go with it? Let's choose a line arrow, click on it, and I want to click and drag, and oh, what the fudge is going on? The arrow's pointing out, not in. Well, that's okay. We can go ahead and flip it around. Plus, it's kind of an anorexic arrow, so we need to go ahead and update it. With it selected, well, I don't want to go with blue. That blends too much. Let's go ahead and click on Shape Outline. Let's see if red, oh, I kind of like black. That pops a bit more. Let's select that color, Black Text 1. Click on it again, and give it some more weight, something, oh, that gets pretty thick. I like that. Oh, 3's pretty good. Select that, and then click on Shape Outline again. You see how you get all these different options here, color, weight, and then arrows. So if I don't want it pointing out, but I want it to point in, have it as an innie. There you go, Arrow Style 6, select that, and fabulous. And then you can click and drag it, move it around, and that looks pretty good. We can go ahead and hover over the resizing handle, click and drag it in just a bit. And then if I want to duplicate that with it selected, do Control D as in dog, and there you go, there's a duplicate of it. Hover over the right resizing handle, click and drag and swing that around. And you're probably wondering where I'm going with this. Well, me too. Let's go ahead and come back up here. With that shape selected, we get the Related Contextual Format tab. We can insert additional shapes. And I don't know if you remember, but when I was a kid, we got the newspaper, and in there we had a bunch of comics that we'd read. Well, okay, not a lot, because, I don't do those kind of things. In any case, you had these cartoon characters that had these what are called call-outs, little thought bubbles, or when they're talking, a little speech bubble. In any case, let's do a speech bubble. Click on the one that you like, and you get the black cross, click and drag, and there's your speech bubble. So you can actually, after you drag it, if you're like, it's too small or it's not big enough, you got the resizing handles. Hover over the border until you can see a 4-way arrow, click and drag that so it tips right next to it. Or if you drag it back, you're like, no, I want to keep it there, so how in the world do I get that bubble tied to that so people know that it's associated with that call out? You can hover over the yellow little circle there, click and drag, and ooh, there you go. Now with it selected, you can go ahead and just type to add some text and say this is 2016 sales. We're on target. And then for the other one, let's go ahead and click on the border, Control D to duplicate that. Then we can hover over that border and click and drag that and put that down and say, well, that's not 2016. Maybe this was the year before, 2015 sales, and not put an exclamation point because we're kind of sad that we weren't on target. And you can, of course, go ahead and format this. You can right-click on it, And you get the fill colors, so you can choose a color for the center of the callout. You can also, with it selected, come up here on the related contextual format tab, go to the shape styles group. You got your shape styles, you can choose one of those and see a preview of it over in the document. Let me click off. You can also have the shape outline. If you want to do something, well, I don't know if you can really see that. You can probably give it green accent 6, slider 40%. And then if you really want to see it, you can give it some weight. Oh, okay, that's a bit too much. In any case, you get the idea. Let me go ahead and click off of that. You can click on the expandable dialog box button for what we have selected to get the task pane. So you have your shape options for what's selected and your text options for the text inside, because you can go ahead and click inside the text as you typed it in and also format it, change the color of the text, make it, okay, red doesn't work for me. In any case, you can go ahead and do that. If I do automatic, it wants to keep it white. You can do, well, black, we'll leave it as black there. Something we don't want to focus on. But hey, 2016, we're awesome. You get the additional options over here for your text. Well, we did it in the mini formatting toolbar, but you can also, kick the bucket here and choose white, and it updates it to white, and the transparency, or go back to the shape options and go ahead and mess around with it, like picture. You want to do a picture. Right now we got texture. We can go ahead and do one on line. And we can do ghost because, it's kind of spooky. Our cells weren't on target. So we'll do this little dude here. Select him, click on insert, and click off. And okay, you can't see the text. So you want to go ahead and, let's go ahead and select the text and do dark. There we go. Okay, well, his eyes get in the way. In any case, you get the idea. You'll have to bring out your inner artist if you're going to get a little bit more detail than this. We don't want to annoy the person. We just want to be able to draw their attention and make it aesthetically pleasing. And so with that guy selected, let's go to shape options and let's click on fill and say a solid fill. Well, let's do a color here, something. There we go. We'll go ahead and leave it as is. And let's go ahead and close out of here. One last thought is that if you want to be able to move this around in your document, or maybe you want to copy this, cut this, and paste it into another, well, if I start clicking and, oh my, that's not going to work, is it? Let's go ahead and hit undo. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and select all our shapes, and you can do Control A, and it selects everything, but if there's anything else within your document, additional shapes, it will select it as well. So, okay, we're back to clicking on one and holding down the Shift key and clicking on all the other shapes until we get all of them. And then once you have all of them, you can either go ahead and right-click on your selection and in the shortcut menu, group them all together, or you can come up here on the Related Contextual Format tab, go to the Arrange group, and there you go. Click on it to group them. And once you group them, Word sees the objects as one object. So then you can go ahead and click and drag, and it comes with you. Oh, that's nice. And if you want to go ahead and click on one to make a change to it, you don't have to ungroup it, although you do get the option if you want to right-click to go to group to ungroup to break them up and start, moving them around, rearranging them, and then grouping them back. But you can go ahead and select them individually within the group and then make your changes. Like let's do shape fill to, you see when I hover over orange, it updates that. So, and then of course to go ahead and ungroup it, right-click. Let's do it group, ungroup. And there you're back to all the individual parts that make up the one large part. If you want to add some fancier decorative text, you can check out WordArt, and that's found up here on the Insert tab in the Text group, and it's that letter A that's about to fall off his chair. And you can see when I hover over it in the pop-up, it says Insert WordArt and add some artistic flair. Ooh, I'd like to add some. Click on it. Okay, if it's not flourish enough for you, that's okay. Select the one that comes closest, and you can tweak it later, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and choose this one. Gradient fill purple accent color 4, outline purple accent color 4. Click on it, and there you go. You get a text box with your fancy text. All you have to do is go ahead and replace your text here with, well, your text. Just start typing. Hopefully it's something fancy. And if you didn't like that style and you want to change it, you don't have to delete it. Well, if you want to delete the text box, then just hover over the border of it until you can see a four-way arrow to click on the border of the box and then hit the delete key and it's gone. I'm going to go ahead and undo that and bring it back. And instead, let's go ahead and click inside and select it. You get the mini formatting toolbar, but that's not what I want. I want to change the style without having to insert it again. So let's come up here to the Related Contextual Format tab. Go to the Word Art Styles group. Click on Quick Styles, and there you go, back to where you started. I'll stay with what I got and click off. And like I said, if you want to tweak it, well, here's a couple of options. You can tweak the color inside of it, or the fill color, or the border around the text, or find some fancy text effects. Let's do the fill. Choose something that's very filling. How about red accent to lighter 60%? Okay. Now let's change the border, the text outline, something, ooh, that's nice. Red accent to darker 25%, huh? Let's go ahead and choose that. And then let's do some effects. Click on that. Shadow, you can hover over any one of these to get a preview of it over in the document. Offset top, you can go down and get some perspective, or you can do some shadow options. Click on that, opens up the task pane. And so what you can do here, you can go ahead and click and drag and start setting your own shadows here. Oh, that's getting kind of kooky. Maybe that's all right for you, or maybe not. Let's go ahead and hit undo. And you can start with the preset. Then once you get the preset, you can see the settings for it, and then tweak the settings. Click and drag, and anyways, I'm going to hit undo. And in addition to the shadow over here, you get reflection and glow, just as you see when you click on the drop-down arrow, reflection and glow. That glowy glow, that's kind of nice. 8-point red accent color too. Well, that seems to be the theme, or pretty close to it. And then click on it again. You've got 3D rotation, maybe something on the side. Off axis, one left. Click on it. No, thanks. I'll hit undo. Let's try something else. Transform. That looks kind of fun. How about something fancy? Click on it. It's called stop. Oh, that's fun. And then, like I said, after you select it, if you want to go ahead and tweak it, you can bring up the task pane, and you can do it one of a couple of ways. Well, let's go ahead and close out of it. You can either go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow, and when you get in here and you're like, ooh, I want more options, I want to be able to mess with it. Well, you do get the rotation options, which will bring up the task pane, but better yet, you can just click on the expandable dialog box button, and it brings it up there. And then you can go ahead and mess with like 3D rotation. And if you remember your algebra days, you have your X and Y axis and Z as well. And so you can go ahead and rotate it, and it's rotating. You can see a preview of it, and then tilt it, and oh, it's getting kind of nauseating. Or you can choose one of the presets. Let's do relax moderately. It's somewhat moderately relaxed. In any case, choose your flavor. I'm going to go ahead and hit undo a couple of times. Okay, several times. And then outside of the text, within the box, of course, you have the text box itself that if you want to close out of here, on the Format tab to the Shape Styles, this is all about the box. So click on the More button, and you can hover over that, or click on it and click off, and there's the color for the text box. Click on the border to select the box, or you can click in it, doesn't matter. It brings up the Format tab that you can go ahead and choose instead of one of the presets, Shape Fill, something else that fills it nicely, which I'm not choosing one that does it right. But you also got the Shape Outline, so we've got blue, and then shape effects. So there you go again. You can actually have a glow around your shape. Wow, what a neon looking sign. If you ever read a fairy tale story where it starts off typically with once upon a time and it begins with the big O in once, well, in Word that's called a drop cap. It takes the first letter in a paragraph and it drops it several lines down, thereby making it larger. So if you want to be able to add, like in this paragraph, the first letter in it, I, as a drop cap, a big I want to introduce you to a leading American, then you got to click inside the paragraph, because if you don't, and you click on the Insert tab to go to the text group, there you go, add a drop cap, can't click on it because I'm not in the paragraph that has text. So go ahead and click on it, makes it available, then go ahead and click on it, and right now it's none. You can either have it dropped, And there's the default. You can see the preview of it in the document down below. Or you can have it in the margin, and it's just like it says. You can see the preview of it, and it goes out to the 1-inch margin. So if I choose dropped, and I'm like, you know what, let me click off of it in the same paragraph, that is, that I don't like that, it's too close. You want to tweak it, well, then come back up here, click on the drop down drop arrow, and go down to drop cap options. And you got your 3 different positions, none, dropped, and in margin. And we've got drop selected. And if it's too close, you can put the distance from the text, click on that, click okie doke. Okay, maybe that's better. In any case, you can make your tweakage there. Let's do drop caps again. You can change the font type, click on it. Let's do mono type Corsiva. And let's go back to 0, and let's drop maybe 2 lines. Click okie dokie. Okay, elegant, but too close. And so if you want to change it, great. If you want to go ahead and undo it and you don't have the undo option, then click on drop and say none. SmartArt is a collection of graphic diagrams used to visually communicate information. And to see these diagrams, or the SmartArt, come up here and click on the Insert tab, go to the Illustrations group, and click on SmartArt. Well, you can see when I hover over it in the pop-up, it says SmartArt graphics range from graphical lists and process diagrams to more complex ones, like organization charts. Let's go ahead and click on it to see a list of all the different categories of diagrams, like lists or process. When you select it, you can come over here to the middle section, hover over one of the examples, and that one you can see in the pop-up, the name of it is Basic Process. Select it to get the details over here. And it says it's used to show a progression or sequential step in a task, process, or workflow. Like, first you have to eat your dinner, and then you can have treats, and then you can go outside and play. Let's go ahead and choose hierarchy, do something a bit more complex, like this one right here, organization chart, select it, and it's used to show the hierarchical information or reporting relationships in an organization. So up at the top is the chief executive, the CEO, and then you've got the assistant to the CEO that sits on the side of it, and then everything below that can go from VPs, and then below them their assistants, and then below that managers, and so on. In any case, let's go ahead and click OK, and there we go. It adds a few basic shapes to start off with, and if you have more people to add to your organization chart, well, we can add more shapes or we can take them away. But first off, you've got the first shape up at the top, and so that would be, again, the president or the CEO. You can go ahead and click inside of it to add text, or, let's see, over to the left-hand side you have the text pane. Let me click on the title bar of the text pane to drag it so we can see it over here. And you can see the cursor's flashing in that bullet point, and so it's got its own hierarchy structure here. And so when I go down to the next point, or that little image here that represents the assistant to the president or CEO, it selects the corresponding shape there, or you can select any one of these 3 down below, and you can see it selects the corresponding shape. Now there's pros and cons between typing within the text boxes here versus using the text pane. So if you close out of it and you're like, oh, I want to use the text pane, then with your SmartArt selected, you get the related contextual design tab. Come over to the Create Graphic group and click on Text Pane to appear, Text Pane to disappear, Text Pane to appear. Well, in any case, click and drag the title bar. So up here I can go ahead, and the pros for doing it within the text pane is that when it comes to going from one shape to the next or one bullet point to the next, you can just use the down arrow keys. So for the first shape up at the top, it's going to be me, Kurt. After I type it in, you can see it takes up almost the entire shape. Yeah, how am I going to get my last name in there, let alone my title? Well, just keep typing, because it will do something fancy. It'll do a best fit. It'll keep shrinking the size of the font until it fits everything within it. So if you keep on typing, well, it's not only going to shrink the shape for the CEO, but all the other shapes as well. As you can see, the text in those shapes have also shrunk. That way it doesn't look too odd, where you've got somebody with a smaller name as opposed to somebody with a larger name that's in larger text. But you can always make it custom to that shape to change it so it's always that size, but by default it's going to update all the other shapes to keep all the text within all the shapes at the same size. So in the diagram, if I wanted to go to the next shape, I'd have to move my mouse But over here in the text pane, I can just hit the down arrow key and it advances to the next shape, and I can go ahead and type in. There you go. Oh, wait a second. I need to add who I am within the organization. I'm the president. So I can just go ahead and arrow back up, and isn't that simpler than just coming over here and moving the mouse back and forth? You can keep your hand strictly on the keyboard and not have to raise one hand to work the mouse if you're working in the text pane. Now to go ahead and add the title for the person, hold down the Shift key and hit Enter, and it does a soft return, as we learned in an earlier training video. So we can go ahead and type in president. There you go. Or same thing, if you go ahead and delete that. Whoops. I deleted much more than I realized. So what we need to do is go ahead and hit undo, or as I'll show you in just a minute, if you do delete, as you can see here, the shapes, by deleting one of the bullets, you can go ahead and come up here and add a shape, but I digress. Let's go back to where we were. Let me go ahead and hit the backspace key several times. There we go. And then if you want to add the title within the shape, then come over here, click after the last name. Same thing, hold down the Shift key, hit Enter, and then you can type in. There you go. So either or. Let me go ahead and close out of here, keep it visually appealing for this training video by typing the text within the shapes. And then let's go down into Doc McStuffins, Shift Enter, AA for Alcoholics Anonymous or Administrative Assistant, like whatever. And then we can go ahead and type in the rest. And then to go to the next shape, I have to use the mouse. And there we go. There's my organization. Well, at least for now, until we go ahead and add more employees, or also when some leave, we need to know how to go ahead and remove their corresponding shapes or leave it vacant until we get somebody to replace them. Now let's go ahead and focus up here on the Design tab in the Create Graphic group, all the different options that we get. First off, how about adding a shape? So if you want to add a shape, first off, you need to select the shape that you want to add it to. So if I want to add more assistants to me or more subordinates to me that aren't my assistants, maybe additional VPs, then I would want to select my shape here. So speaking of which, if you want to get rid of a shape, as we learned in the text pane, you can actually delete the bullet or go ahead and click on the border of a shape and hit the delete key, and it's gone. Now to go ahead and add a shape, because I'm like, wait a second, let's see, we got rid of Doc. We need to add another administrative assistant to me. So we want to go ahead and click inside my shape, and then come up here and click on Add Shape, and you get all the different options. You can add a shape after or before. What that means is that it's at the same level. So after means, well, to the right of my shape, or before means to the left of it. So at the same level, and I don't want anybody at the same level as me, so I'm not going to do that, at least not yet. And then you can add a shape above or below, or add an assistant. Of course, assistant will be below, but not so far below because the next level is going to be the VPs. We can't have the assistant below the VPs, which would be below the managers, and have this line come all the way around them to come up to connect here to say they're in direct contact with me. Instead, when I click on Add Assistant, it adds it below me, but to the side. So as far as the hierarchical structure, while they do have direct contact with me, they're not directly below me. As far as decision making goes, it's the VPs. So I can come in here and with the shape selected, just start typing. Hey, Doc joined us again. That's great to have you back, Doc. And so we can do that, and we can come back up here, click on my shape, and then go ahead and add another shape, and we'll say shape below. So now we have 4 VPs, and we can just go ahead and start typing with that shape selected. Now, this brings up a good point. We've got 4 VPs. Maybe you want to keep track of them by seniority. So the ones who are most senior are on the left-hand side as you move up the chart. So the next person that would probably replace me might be Peter Pan. If you want to go ahead and change the order and have it in a hierarchical structure of seniority, left being the most senior, then with the shape selected like Bubba Brain, maybe we hired him before we did Fred Wilson, so he would be to the left of Fred Wilson with his shape selected. Come up here to the Create Graphic group, and you can go ahead and move up. Well, there we go. Bubba Brain. And so, hey, if you're going down, you're going to the right, but as you continue to move up, you can get all the way to the most senior position. In any case, that may be a little bit subjective. It depends on how you want to organize your chart, but that's how it works within the Word organization chart. If you want to move something to the left, it's going to be up. You move them to the right, it's going to be down. But if you want to move them up or down within the actual chart, like let's say Fred Wilson here, go ahead and select his box, and if he's like been demoted, and then come up here and say you want to, well, there you go, demote. And what that does is it will demote him and put him under the shape that he's adjacent to, or the shape that's on the left-hand side. So if I go ahead and choose Bubba Brain, and I come up here and I click on demote, he automatically goes to the shape that's more senior of the two VPs, which is, well, Groucho, because that's moving up when you go to the left as opposed to moving down going to the right. So he wouldn't move down and go underneath Fred, but Bubba, when he's between the two, will go to the left moving up. And so if you're like, well, wait a second, I don't want him to be a subordinate to Groucho, well, what you can do is you can give him a temporary promotion. Hey, you're VP. Maybe you want him to be a sub to Peter Pan, then you can go ahead and move him up, and then go ahead and demote him. And now he's a subordinate to Peter Pan. Now, as far as the hanging goes, or the layout, if we don't want Bubba Brain hanging to the right of Peter Pan, but to the left, then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and select the shape above him, and then come up here to the Create Graphic group and click on Layout and say that you want to hang him left. So everything that's subordinate to the shape that you have selected, instead of hanging to the right, click left, and he flips and goes to the left. Sweet. And speaking of switching things up, you can come back up here and flip it from right to left or left to right. So when I click on right to left, Peter Pan flips over to Fred, and Fred goes over to Peter Pan. So there's the axle right there that it flips across. And so if I go ahead and click on it, there you go. Fred Wilson is now the senior. Oh, and Doc gets flipped over to the other side. So if I had two admin assistants, then Doc would switch over here, then the one who's over here would switch over there. So there's the axis, it gets flipped across. And so if I want to go back, just click on it to deselect it, and we're back to where we were. Now let's move on to other design options like, different styles here. Let's click on more and see what's available. We've got, what's this? Intense effect. That's pretty intense. How about something 3D, something inset or polished? Select that, and then to give it some couleur, come up here and click on Change Colors, and you can see the default selected Accent 1. Maybe you want to choose something, you can hover over it. Like, how about Colorful Range Accent Colors 3 to 4? Okay, select that, and that's okay with me. And then the layouts, click on More, and let's see what that one is. Half Circle Organization Chart. That's pretty fancy. Well, I'll leave it as is. Let me click off of it. And if you want to focus on one particular shape, in other words, you like the general colors, but maybe Doc, keeping her purple, let's go ahead and change the color there. With the shape selected, you can come up here and click on the Format tab and do a shape fill. And you can see when I hover over it, it just updates her shape with some color that, okay, maybe blue. And in fact, if I come in here and I click and drag and select the text, I can go ahead and change the text size, make it 10 point, and it just focuses on that text box and doesn't update all the others. So you can get really proprietary with that. And in fact, you can hover over the resizing handles for that box or that shape and click and drag to push it in about yay big. Maybe click and drag a little bit below so you can see the AA. So that way you can go ahead, resize the boxes, and if you want to do a lot at the same time, then go ahead and click on one, hold down the Shift key and click on the borders of the others, and then go ahead and hover over one of the resizing handles of the three that you have selected and click and drag and push them in. And there you go. So that way you can fit more within a limited area here, and then go ahead and resize the overall SmartArt graphic. And let's come over here, click on the Home tab, turn on the codes. For the paragraph here, do center align, or like I said, you can go ahead and select it, click on the border of it, and change the layout options, move it around. Let's go back to the Design tab. And if you're like, you know what, that's just not cutting it for me, I'd like to start over again, well, you can do a reset. Click on it, and we're back to where we started. Oh, please don't make me do this video again. You can watch it again, but don't make me go through that again. A building block is anything you can select within your document that you want to save a copy of and insert later as many times as you want in this or another document with a single click. So for example, I've got my product image, the title, and the URL that I want to include together in this or other documents. So instead of recreating this group of items every single time, like inserting the image and then creating the word art and then typing in the URL, or once you have it, instead of selecting it and copying it and pasting it on page 2, 5, 20, or to other documents, I can do it once, meaning that I create it by selecting these individual items all at once, or blocks of items as it were, and save it into one block that I can then later insert over and over again with a single click. Now before I go ahead and just select them and save it as a building block, I want to know what I'm selecting. And I can do that by coming up here on the Home tab to the paragraph group and turning on the codes. And you can see I've got a paragraph, an empty line above it, well, the product image, the title, and the URL, and 2 empty paragraphs below. So if I click and drag and I select the empty lines, the 3 paragraphs, including, well, the 3 items here, and I save it as a building block, when I insert that, well, it'll also include and insert an extra paragraph above the selection down below and 2 after. And if I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, I just want specifically no extra lines, just the content right here, well, then go ahead and click off, and then hover over in the left-hand margin until you can see the pointer turning inwards or right to the document, and then click and hold down your left mouse button and drag so we can get right there. Everything but not the paragraph above and the 2 below. Cool. Then once we have it selected, we can go ahead and save it as a building block by coming up here and clicking on the Insert tab. I know it's kind of kooky, isn't it? You think it wouldn't be inserting something to save it, but stay with me. We want to come over here to the text group, and it's right there. You can see when I hover over it, it says Explore Quick Parts. Insert pre-formatted text, auto text document properties and fields anywhere in the document. To reuse content in the document, select it and save it to the Quick Parts gallery. Tell me more. Well, I'll tell you more. Let's go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow, and with everything selected, we can go ahead and save it to the Quick Parts gallery as a building block. And then after you save it as a building block, you can organize it. Let's go ahead and save it as a building block to the Quick Part gallery, and the Quick Part gallery is going to be what you see here. In other words, a gallery is something that we talked about in a couple earlier training videos, like the text box here. When I click on that, it's like going to a museum and you see a bunch of pictures up on the wall. That's a gallery of images, as well you can see here in the drop down for the text box, a gallery of built-in items or text boxes, images, like the simple text box, the Austin quote, and so on. And so when I click on the Quick Parts here, there's no gallery of images because, well, I haven't saved anything to it yet. So let me go ahead and click on Save Selection to Quick Parts Gallery. And okay, first off, the name. Well, that's pretty generic. Let's go ahead and type in a name for this building block. Oh, that's as far as I can go. So it only allows you so much room for your name. Lemon Essential Oils Product Web. I was going to type in website. And then the gallery. Now you can choose the Quick Parts Gallery, which is, well, what we just clicked on to save it. So it'll be listed there. And you can see all the different galleries you can include it in. The least of which is the one that we just clicked on to save it, which is the Quick Parts Gallery. And you can choose other galleries like the one we just talked about, the text boxes. So if I save it there and I click on the text box drop-down arrow, it'll be listed with all the other images there, or built-in text boxes, the gallery therein. Or you can choose others, like if you want to insert a table and also include your Quick Part in the Tables gallery, which is right up here. When you click on Tables, well, it'll be there, but for me, in this example, it wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to leave it as, let me click off, the Quick Parts gallery, keep it simple. And then for the category, well, is it something general, or do you want to get specific? Ooh, let's do that. Let's create a new category. This is all about essential oils, because maybe I have additional essential oils like lavender, tea tree, or melaleuca, and so forth, and so I'm going to be creating a bunch of these, and I want to be able to tie them all to one category that makes sense, essential oils, so we'll do that. Click Okie dokie. And then a description. if you'd like. Lemon essential oils, image, title, and URL. And then do I want to save it in the building blocks, which I recommend. Well, when it comes to organizing the building blocks, that's where it's going to go unless you change it to be part of the normal document template, the global template, which I want to keep it simple. Let's go ahead and go with the default building blocks. And then as far as the options go, when you insert your building block, do you want to just insert the content that you have here, or do you want to insert it into its own paragraph or its own page? Well, if I do its own page, then I lose the control over of inserting that, well, within a page that already has some text there. So we'll keep it simple, insert content only, and click Okie dokie, and that's it. So when I want to go ahead and insert this, just come back up here, Insert tab, Text Group, click on the Quick Parts, and oh my, look at that. And there you go. When you hover over it, you get the title and the description. And then, well, I don't want to click on it because if I do, it'll overwrite or replace the selection here. So how about if we go ahead and create a new blank document? Because we know it's there within this document, so I can come down here and of course click on it to insert it. Scroll back up and ooh, that's just fun. Let's go ahead and undo that. Go Backstage File, down to New, Blank Document. Well, of course the codes are on. In any case, Insert tab, Text, Gallery, Quick Parts, click. Oh, that's just great. Let's go ahead and go to the Home tab and turn off the codes. Close out of that and don't save. Now to make modifications to your building block, like if you want to update it, maybe you don't want to include the URL, or you want to include something else, like we left out the paragraph above and the two below. Go ahead and make your changes and then select what you'd like to include in the update, and then come back up here on the Insert tab, go to the Text Group, and click on Quick Parts, and then go ahead and click on Save Selection to Quick Part Gallery. And you'll have to remember the name that you want to overwrite or replace it with to update that building block. And I remember it, it's that. And the gallery's Quick Parts. Now, if I choose another gallery, it won't overwrite what's in the Quick Parts gallery, but create or add what we have here and put it over into, well, another gallery. But let's go ahead and leave it as Quick Parts just for this example. And essential oils is a category, and then the description, well, we'll have to type it in again, but I won't do that. Let's just go ahead and click Okie dokie. And it says, do you want to redefine the building block entry? In other words, overwrite it, update it with what you have here. And I'll say no. Now, if I go ahead and I choose another gallery, and I say not the Quick Parts, let me just go ahead and let's do the text boxes, or better yet, the tables. That's going to be kind of kooky. So when I click on tables, I'll have, well, my building block and the tables there. And the category, when you click on it, it doesn't have essential oils because that's proprietary to the gallery of Quick Parts. And so if I go back to Quick Parts, click on it, because we created the category in that gallery, well, there it is. So if I go ahead and choose tables, and I want to be able to have its own category within the tables or just appear as part of the built-in. So when you click on tables, like any other gallery, if there's built-in, it will be a part of the built-in, unless you want to say, no, it's not built-in, it's my own. It's, well, let's go ahead and create a new category and call it my own Spiffy category. And click Okie dokie, type in the description. In any case, go ahead and click Okie dokie, and then now we got two building blocks. We have one in the Quick Parts, it's still there. And then over here in the tables, click on Table, and then go down to Quick Tables. And let's go ahead and scroll down until we can find it. Oh, there it is at the very bottom in its own Spiffy category. Fabulous. You can also right-click on it to get additional options, and it's the same options whether it's in the Tables gallery or, let me come up here, click on Quick Parts and right-click. You see you get the same shortcut menu there. You can insert it at current document position, insert it at page header, footer. In any case, you get quite a few options there. And you can edit the properties. Now, we learned how to overwrite and replace it with whatever we selected here by saving the selection. What if you don't want to update it as far as that goes, but maybe you want to go ahead and edit the properties and say, okay, you're no longer going to be this name, or you want to change it from the Quick Parts gallery. But then if I change it from the Quick Parts gallery, like let's do text boxes, and okay, we'll leave it as built in and click Okie dokie. Do you want to redefine it? Yes. So is it up here in the Quick Parts gallery? No, because we redefined it and said you should be in the text box. And well, there's the built-in categories, so it will be here somewhere sorted alphabetically. There you go. And you can right-click on that, and you get the shortcut menu for the text boxes, where you can insert at current document position, but well, not the same shortcut menu as we did when we right-clicked on it in the Tables gallery or in the Quick Parts gallery. But you can go back to edit the properties and well, make your changes. Click Cancel. Or you can go ahead and click on it again, scroll down, and if you're like, you know what, I don't want it at all, right-click on it and go to Organize and Delete, and it opens up the Building Blocks Organizer. Now, if you're like, let me close out, I don't remember what gallery it's in, the text box, the table, I just want to clean things up. Well, instead of clicking on the text box and doing a search and destroy mission and trying to find it or the table, you can go ahead and in the text group, click on the Quick Parts and go down to the Building Blocks Organizer. It opens up the same window. The only thing you have to do now, instead of it being selected by default when you choose it from the actual, well, text box gallery or the table gallery, because it'll be selected, then you can go ahead and hit delete. But because we came here without right-clicking on that selection from one of those galleries, we have to go ahead and do a search by, well, we can sort it by name. If you know the gallery that it's in, you can go ahead and search it that way and scroll down to find the text boxes. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, there we go. So the text boxes at the very bottom there. So in any case, once you have it there, you can go ahead and delete it or edit the properties. Now you can, sort it by gallery if you remember the gallery, but maybe you're having problems with that. The category. Well, we have the category Essential Oils, so you can click on that to sort it alphabetically, ascending or descending, and then go ahead and scroll through that till you find it. Oh, well, I converted this one over to Spiffy, so there you go. I'm getting lost. The best for me is to go ahead and click Sort by Name. We can go ahead and click and drag until we can find the 2 lemon essential oils right there. One's the built-in category. That's right, now my memory's kicking back in. We changed it to built-in, and then that one's Spiffy. So you got a few options to go ahead and find it. If you don't want to go to the gallery itself and right-click on it, where it brings it right up and selected by default, for you to just go ahead and click on Delete. Yes. And then we've got the other one, and we can go ahead and delete it with it selected right there. Or again, close out. Text box, click and drag, and right-click there to Organize and Delete, and automatically has it selected for you when you do it from the gallery, as I mentioned. And we can go ahead and insert it or delete it. And it's gone. Close out. Text box sorted alphabetically because it's in the built-in category. And after the I's, there's no L's for lemon essential oil. It's toast. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.